All right, what's up, folks? Rich Van Tassel back with you, giving you our preview of the 2017-2018 NBA season. We just did the Eastern Conference. Now, of course, we got the Western Conference. At the top of the list, obviously, it's going to be the Golden State Warriors. Really no reason to see this team not win in the 65-win range and higher 65. I actually like this team to be around 66 to 68 wins. They could get 70 if they really want. I don't know if they will choose to go for it. This team could also drop down to maybe about 62 wins if they have a bit of a hangover, if they don't come along, out of the gates firing. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. There's always those situations, so you really never know. But look, they figured out with Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. We can talk all day about Kevin Durant, whether or not, him going to Golden State, how weak that was, whatever you want to make of it. There's always those, topics, but we can't really discuss that now. Just looking at it strictly from a pure basketball standpoint, this team is just too talented. I worry about some of the age of the guys who are the rotation players. You have Sean Livingston getting up there at 32, Zaza Pachulia at 33, David West at 37. They're not going to be expected to get that many minutes, though. They're just deep all the way around, and these guys can do enough, just relying on Steph Curry, relying on Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, and of course Klay Thompson, who to me has kind of become like the forgotten guy out there in Golden State. But just too much talent. Expect Golden State to be the championship team yet again this year, and frankly, they should not have lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2016. Next up, Golden State. I think they'll get 60-plus wins. I'm liking them in around the 61 to 62 win plateau. You add Paul George, you add Carmelo Anthony up there in age. The only thing I worry about with this team is you have a situation where you've kind of really depleted your bench. Remember, they didn't trade picks to get any of these guys. They traded players. Now, you would make those trades every day. You would trade Domantas Sabonis. You would trade Victor Oladipo for Paul George in a heartbeat. However, how well have they replaced the rest of the parts? Steven Adams is a quality player. You get Raymond Felton, some question of whether or not he can stay in shape. Patrick Patterson, will he play power forward? Will they go small with Anthony at the power forward or George at the power forward? One small, one power, however you want to do it. Will they go with a Patrick Patterson? Let's see. But a guy like Patrick Patterson, Andre Robertson, who was already there, these are guys who don't really play offense that well. So that's a situation where you can slouch off this team, slouch off the Georges, the Russell Westbrooks. Russell Westbrook will be the guy handling the ball a majority of the time. You have some question marks as to whether or not Carmelo Anthony, when he needs the ball, how much does he need it in his hand? Paul George is a guy who I don't think needs it in his hand that much. There are those question marks. I expect teams to slouch off a little bit on the Robertsons and the Patrick Pattersons to help on those guys. Look, if there wasn't a Golden State Warriors team here, I think Oklahoma City would be a very, very curious situation and probably a team making a run, at least at the Western Conference Championship. Unfortunately, you have Golden State in the league and in that conference especially, so it'll make for interesting playoff matchups if these teams meet, but it's just not enough you have with the Oklahoma City Thunder to expect that this team is going to be able to win. So the Oklahoma City Thunder in second at about 61, 62 wins. In third place, I'm liking 57 wins. That's the Houston Rockets. Of course, they brought in Chris Paul. I've never been the highest guy on Chris Paul. I think he's been overrated at times, but he still gets the job done. You're going to pair him with James Harden. Expect James Harden's assist numbers to go down. He was very high last year. Chris Paul, only 32 years old, still young enough. So you also got Mabute, a nice addition in that trade with the Los Angeles Clippers. Eric Gordon is now going to be the main guy off the bench. Ryan Anderson, I think, is a guy who needs to really develop his game and continue to just maybe not develop it, but continue to keep it there. He's been at about 13 points his entire career. He's at 29 years old. He is what he is. He fits that offense very nicely. Of course, he can shoot the three. He can spread the floor out. Mike D'Antoni has really found a home there in Houston. I'm not too concerned about the defense with this team, and I'm not really too concerned that much about defense in this day and age in the NBA anyway. So that's not something to worry about. I just don't think they have the firepower with an Oklahoma City Thunder and with a Golden State Warriors team. Of course, you did bring in Chris Paul, but the other guys I just don't think have the guns to be able to carry this team to where they need to be. And I would expect that they will finish in third and probably get bounced in the second round by an Oklahoma City Thunder team. The San Antonio Spurs, look, we're going to put them at fourth. I don't know what to expect with the San Antonio Spurs, to be honest with you. You know, Tony Parker coming back from that injury. What's going to happen with this team? What do they have anymore? Kawhi Leonard, of course, is sensational. We know this. He's going to be the main guy. He's going to be their offensive and defensive guy. Tony Parker at 35. I don't even know what they're going to do with him starting the season. Paul Gasol has always been a quality pro. He's at 37. I still expect him to put up numbers. LaMarcus Aldridge is even up there at 32. He's quality, but they're well coached with Greg Popovich still, though. I like this team right around 55 wins, which they'll get to. Rudy Gay, you bring him in for a little firepower. Manu Ginobili at 41. Way too many question marks with the age of this team with guys coming back. Greg Popovich will coach this team well. We've seen what they've been able to do in regular season games when they haven't had their starting players, when they're resting guys or they've been injured or whatever the case may be. In regular season games that they've played, but in this situation, you just don't have the guys and the thoroughbreds to get this team through the playoffs or make any sort of deep postseason run. And I think we're going to start to see the end of the San Antonio Spurs. I know it's tough to say. Greg Popovich is such a good coach, but you've already lost Tim Duncan. So what is left there for the San Antonio Spurs? It's not a team that I can put that much faith in anymore. It's hard to go against them, but in this case, there's nothing else you can go with it. San Antonio will get the wins, but they'll definitely fall short. Now, we have some serious teams between the 5 to 8 at the bottom part of the playoffs. Hard to know where to put them. I did this with this team last year, and they let me down, but I think now it is time for the Minnesota Timberwolves to really step up and really get the job done this year. Look, you bring in Jimmy Butler, you bring in Taj Gibson, two guys who certainly know the situation with Tom Thibodeau as head coach. I thought they were developing talent. They just never really had it all together. Jeff Teague, another guy, replacing Ricky Rubio. Expect him to run the point. Jamal Crawford off the bench. There's a lot of talent on this team, a lot of young guys. I really like Andrew Wiggins. Of course, he signed that big extension, so that's something that you'd look at him. He's at 23.6 last year. He's really, just developed every year, went from 16.9 to 20.7 to 23.6. Expect him to be in the 25 point range. I like, by the way, Minnesota right around 50 wins. I like the veteran people they brought in. Karl Anthony Towns is a load to handle in the middle. He's at 25 points last year. He's another guy who has continued to develop, went from 18.3 to 25.1. I mean, look, if everything breaks right, you look at Karl Anthony Towns as a dark horse MVP candidate. Now, could it be that since he's from, Piscataway, New Jersey, about 5 miles from where I'm doing this video, maybe a little home loving, but I've always liked Jeff Teague, Jamal Crawford off the bench. Jimmy Butler is going to give this team a lot, and Minnesota could be a team that, is really giving one of the top teams a decent run in a series in the playoffs. Apart from that, though, again, there's way too much firepower for this team to really make any serious noise. Could they get out of the first round? That's certainly possible, but right around 50 to 52 wins, 50, we'll go about 52 to 54 for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But I've been let down by this team in the past. I don't expect to be let down by them this year, but who knows? It's all really got to come together for them. 6th place, again, we're at these teams that are quality teams, but in a tough Western Conference. I'm going to go with the Memphis Grizzlies in this case. Look, they're getting up there in age, but they're still not too old. Really, sort of the last run time, if it's not already ending. I kind of like them bringing in Ben McLemore. Gives them at least some offense off the bench, but he really hasn't developed since coming in. Chandler Parsons, if he can stay healthy, he's a 6'10 guy who can shoot. His career numbers have never, I don't think, lived up to the talent that this guy has. His best year was his last year in Houston. Then he went to Dallas and put up some numbers. Can shoot 37% from three, though. Can shoot over 45% from the floor. So if he's healthy, gives this team some much-needed offense. Of course, they're going to run with Marc Gasol and Mike Conley Jr. That's their offense. That is what it is. They play, pretty good defense. You don't have Zach Randolph anymore. It's really tough with these middle-of-the-pack teams in the Western Conference. I think the Memphis Grizzlies, though, have enough with a healthy Chandler Parsons to at least be a sixth-place team, right around 49, 50 wins. Seventh place, Portland Trailblazers. Look, you have Damian Lillard. You're going to be a competitive team. It's really that simple. Lillard doesn't get the love he probably should being in the Northwest, but this guy has been spectacular his entire career, and he'll be able to carry this team to a seventh place spot, right around 47 wins, 48 wins, maybe in that range. Gives you over 25 points. His assist numbers could probably be higher, but he's expected to score a lot. Evan Turner was hurt a lot last season. I expect him, if he's healthy, he's really going to help that team off the bench. He's a guy I really liked when he was a Celtic. Doesn't shoot that well from three, of course. Only played 65 games last year. But when he was back in the lineup towards the end of the year, that's when they went on the run. Noah Vonleh, guys like that. C.J. McCollum, of course, is a guy who can score with the best of them as well off the bench. So you have that 1-2 punch. Myers Leonard has not really developed since coming into the league. A guy who's 7-1. I've really expected more from him, and he's just not giving it to you. It reminds me a bit of a Rick Smits, kind of a, taller, frailer guy. I expected just more from him. He was a pretty high pick, and they really need to have it. If he gives them, a breakout year, this could be a team in the Minnesota range, but still, they're expected to be a pretty early first-round exit as well. The eighth place team, I'm going to give it to them. I'll give the Los Angeles Lakers a shot. Again, this is the same situation as I just discussed with the Philadelphia 76ers. They're no longer tanking. They have their young talent. They're going to be trying to win. Lonzo Ball is interesting. I got to see what happens when he gets into the league. I'm pretty sure he shouldn't have any problems, but with that jump shot, let's see what happens. Hopefully his dad stays out of the way. I think Julius Randle is going to have a very good year. Of course, he had that broken leg injury. I like this guy. He's still been able to put up points, gives you pretty good rebounds in the league. I'm looking at this guy as being like a, 16-10 guy this year. You look at his numbers have improved. His rebounding numbers went down from his second year. Of course, you really can't take his rookie year. He played, 10 minutes that year? But you look at his 14 minutes to be exactly. His rebounding numbers went down from 10.2 to 8.6 in a year. That's really not that big of an issue. Played a little less games, but his point numbers went up. I'm expecting about a 16-11 guy because I really like Julius Randle. I think he'll be a guy who can really help this team. You add a Brook Lopez to give them some depth in the center, and they're not trying to lose anymore. Brandon Ingram, that's a curious case. Can he step his game up and really make some noise? Look, I may look like a fool with this one, just as I will with the Philadelphia 76ers. I had the 76ers really high. They don't play in nearly as competitive a conference as the Western Conference, but let's keep an eye on that. Los Angeles right around about 43, 44 wins. Around 40 to 42, the New Orleans Pelicans. I like both DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis. They're both spectacular players. I would just challenge anyone who acts like DeMarcus Cousins is not a difference maker in this league. I don't know how well they go together, and I don't know what else this team has. You bring in Rajon Rondo, like you need another headstrong guy with DeMarcus Cousins. Those guys played together in in Sacramento and didn't do much. Jrue Holiday, he had the situation last year, of course, with his wife being sick. There's just not enough around this team. Jordan Crawford is back on this team. Tony Allen, good defensive player. He's not going to really help this team much when he's on the court, when you have Cousins and Anthony Davis, because you're looking to spread at that point. So those two guys will put up numbers. There's just not enough around. So about 40 to 42 wins for the New Orleans Pelicans as the 8th place team. 9th place team, tricky spot we're in here. I think the Clippers with Blake Griffin, or 10th place team that is right now, will suffer. You do have Blake Griffin, you do have DeAndre Jordan. Look, DeAndre Jordan, a very good defensive player. His offense was strictly based off of what you had with Chris Paul. You bring in Lou Williams. He's a guy who can score off the bench. Look, this team is just going to go downhill, though. Patrick Beverley will give you some professionalism, but I don't like this team. About 38 to 40 wins. I don't see much with the departure. You have Blake Griffin. They gave him the big max contract. He's put up numbers. His athleticism is on the way down, though. He's already at 28 years old, so he's getting up there in age. I think that's going to be a bad deal for them moving forward into the future. Sam Dekker, doesn't impress me. So with the departures, even with Lou Williams coming in, Danilo Gallinari, not enough there. I don't know what. I don't like it without Chris Paul. I didn't even necessarily like this team with Chris Paul, but he definitely made plays for that team. But it's just going to be a bad situation. 11th place team will be the Denver Nuggets. Now, the Nuggets are a team that could certainly make some noise. They were up there last year in the thick of things at the end of the season. Had a surprising season, that is. Of course, you lose Danilo Gallinari, though. He was a big part of it. Emmanuel Mudiay coming into his own. They're going to rely on the young guys. He's now entering his second year. You also have Jamal Murray, a guy. These are two guys in the backcourt you're going to need to really step up and improve their game. They played well last year. Or, excuse me, Mudiay is going into his third year. Jamal Murray is going into his second year. I apologize for that. If those guys can develop, they can become an interesting team. Nikola Jokic, of course, is another guy. I just expect that this team is going to drop off from where they were. That's why I have them in 11th at about 35 wins because of the departure of Danilo Gallinari. I don't think Danilo Gallinari is that great. I don't think he's going to make that big of a difference for the Los Angeles Clippers with what they have, but he's going to make a difference in the sense that he's really going to limit that team, the Denver Nuggets, that is, from reaching what they could have been now that he's no longer there. Utah Jazz, I have as the 12th place team. I'll have them right around about 33 wins. Look, that departure of Gordon Hayward is really going to hurt that team. Joe Johnson was quality. He's up there in age. You get a Jonas Jerebko. He comes over from the Celtics. He's just not Gordon Hayward. That team was built very nicely with Gordon Hayward to make the run that they did. Derek Favors is not a guy who can carry a team. It was all complementary parts. Dante Exum has really not become the player many would have hoped. This was like the guy when he came into the league. A lot of people thought, hey, Dante Exum, kind of like the look out for guy. Hasn't really done it. Ricky Rubio, you bring in, okay, it's all nice. But you had a situation where the team was entirely built around Gordon Hayward, and now he's no longer there. So Utah is really going to drop off, and I have them as the 12th place team with about 32 to 33 wins in that situation. Next up, I will go with the Phoenix Suns. I expect this team to improve, still be pretty poor, but be around 30 wins, 30 to 32 wins. I like Marquise Chris as a draft, and now coming into his second year. That is a guy who I feel will continue to develop. Of course, you had the guys like Devin Booker. He, of course, had the 70 points last year. You have all those things. You bring in Josh Jackson, the rookie. A lot of talk with Josh Jackson. He could be really hit or miss. A lot of people really like him. A lot of people have some skepticism. I'll keep an eye on that. But, this is still a team that's very young. They're going to be improved. Dragan Bender as well. What is he going to bring to the table? Didn't really do much in his rookie year. He, of course, is still a young guy. So I'm curious to see how well he will develop as well. But that's why the 13th place team, the Phoenix Suns, about 30 to 31 wins. 14th place team, the Sacramento Kings. how you put this team up there, I don't know. I could probably go with Dallas above them. I worry about what's going on with the Dallas situation, and I would expect at some point Sacramento is going to put something together. I think bringing a guy like Vince Carter in brings some professionalism, and De'Aaron Fox could be Rookie of the Year. I really like this guy. I Buddy Hield, what will he do in place of, or not in place of, but being the guy who comes in for DeMarcus Cousins in that trade. Look, this team is just not going really anywhere. You have Zach Randolph now coming back to play with Dave Jager. Of course, Vince Carter. I think that'll be some professionalism, but still, this team right around 27 wins, the Sacramento Kings. And last place team, I have the Dallas Mavericks. I don't know if Dallas will fold this year and really try to tank. Look, you have Dirk Nowitzki up there, and I have Dallas about 25 wins. It just shows how much better the West is than the East. Probably more like 23, 25. I expect this to be Dirk's last year. He's still a quality player, but you've seen his numbers have clearly gone down. Harrison Barnes is not really a replacement guy. They drafted Dennis Smith Jr. A lot of talk about Dennis Smith Jr. We'll see what happens. New Orleans do well. You're trying to get things together and moving forward. You look at Dirk at 39, and he still put up 14 points last year, shot almost 38% from the three. So he still makes plays, don't get me wrong, but just really not enough with this team. I don't know where they're going. I don't know what will happen. You have some decent players in Wesley Matthews, but I don't like it at all for the Dallas Mavericks, especially with, getting Nerlens Noel, getting Dennis Smith Jr., trying to phase out the old with the young. You have Harrison Barnes in there who's still only 25. That's a situation where, he could kind of be like the guy in a few years who's, the veteran doing things helping this, but I don't like the old to mix, transition that this team has, and that's why I'm not expecting much from the Dallas Mavericks, and I have them in last place. All right, so be sure to stay tuned. Remember, we appreciate all subscriptions. We will give you the recap, or excuse me, the postseason awards, postseason predictions. Got to get that to you tomorrow. Maybe it'll come later tomorrow, maybe when the games are starting. I'm sorry, I'm busy. I got the previews done, so you have that, and we'll do that moving forward. But thank you all so much. Thanks for being patient, and we'll see you all next time. Have a good night.